This week on The Chef's Cut, we have acclaimed chef, cookbook author, and Caribbean cuisine champion, Nina Compton. We're talking with Nina about the Top Chef Second Place Club. We were both robbed. Is Caribbean cuisine having a moment, or is this a movement?
Fine dining Caribbean restaurants, that didn't really exist for a very long time.
And she's going to share some Mardi Gras hot takes.
People are going to be judging me really hard. They're like, you didn't say hey Dells.
Be sure to leave a review wherever you're listening to the show. All right, let's bring Nina in. Nina, we are so excited to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy to celebrate Mardi Gras with you. I wore my orange today.
King cakes are flowing. Everybody's looking forward to Mardi Gras.
I love Mardi Gras. It's one of my favorite times of year.
Nina, one of, my questions is, I think what I didn't realize, like when I think of New Orleans, it's, you've been there for a long time now. Your season of Top Chef was there. You've kind of, I think for a lot of people and in my mind, when I think of New Orleans chefs, like I think of you. And, I think I always just assumed that you've been there forever. That was your whole career. But you actually came up, not New Orleans, and then, ended up moving there. And I was just curious, like, how did you get there? What happened that you ended up, moving on from where you were in Florida and all these, you worked for incredible chefs. You worked for Norman Van Aken, which is a name I haven't seen on a thing in a while. And I was like, oh my God, Norman Van Aken. Like, what a legend.
Right. And Daniel Boulud, Scott Conant, you won Best Chef, James Beard in 2018.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. And when I look at, coming from St. Lucia, a very, very small island, and when I started cooking, my mom's, I told her as I was working in these hotels back home, I'm like, I really want to go to culinary school. So luckily I was able to go to the CIA in Hyde Park. And for me, when I came to culinary school, it was always, I'm going to go to culinary school and then I'm going to move back to St. Lucia. But then I'm like, no, I can't go back just yet because I'm not ready to go back yet. Because for me, I always saw everything in my life as, what's the goal here? And for me, it was always about getting as much information, as much exposure from the best chefs. So back in 2000, Daniel Boulud was, he was the guy, and he still is. And I wanted to work in his restaurants and really master things. And, once that chapter was done, I read so much about Norman, and he was doing amazing Floridian food that a lot of ingredients I grew up with that he was using very beautifully. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. So for me, it was always go work for Chef Norman and then on to something next. And I was only going to be in Miami for a couple of years, and it was over a decade. And then, when I thought the chapter was ending, I got to work with Scott Conant when they were redoing the Fontainebleau. So it was an amazing grand opening, and I wanted to be part of that. And, I was with Scott for almost 8 years. And that last year and a half, I get a phone call direct to the kitchen, and they're like, hey, can we talk to Chef Nina? I said, this is actually during South Beach Food and Wine. I remember this specifically. We were so busy, and they're like, we want to talk to you about da-da-da-da. And I'm like, listen, I'm really busy. Just send an email to Nina Compton at thefountainblue.com. And I hang up the phone. I'm expecting an email within 24 hours. The weekend goes by, a week goes by, nothing. So I'm like, oh, this must have just been a prank call or whatever it was. They call back again. They're like, hey, we didn't get a response from you. And I said, I never got the email. So they spelled Fontainebleau wrong. So I never got the email. And they're like, okay, spell it again. And they're like, we're going to say it right now. So this email pops up. I click on it. And the email heading is like Top Chef casting. And I'm like talking to the producer, and I'm like, this is ready for Top Chef, like the Top Chef show. And they're like, yeah, we wanna hopefully have you in the final cast. And as you guys know, it's a very lengthy process. And after doing, Top Chef, I wanted to move to New Orleans because even though I was living in Florida, I'd never been to Louisiana. And I've just heard so many things about the city, the food, the culture, everything. And when we filmed Top Chef there, I told my husband, I'm like, we need to find a way for us to get back there. And as you guys also know, once you finish Top Chef, your world gets crazy. You get all these people want to open a restaurant, move here, do this. You're all over the place. And we had interviewed so many people for restaurants in Miami, restaurants in LA, but nothing really spoke to me until we came to see the space. And I always believe in energy and just vibes and that kind of stuff. And I remember going into that space, which was under construction, and dirt floors, wires hanging down. And we walked in and we walked right out. And I told my husband, this is the spot.
Nice.
I love that.
And it's such a beautiful location too.
Thank you.
Oh my God. It's such a great place. I love that whole area, just everything about it. The place feels great. The exposed brick, the wrought iron, the windows facing the street. I mean, it's just such a great space.
It, like, New Orleans makes so much sense. And it's, you know, again, like one of those hindsight things where it's like, oh yeah, like Nina and New Orleans, like it's like a perfect match made in heaven. But like, the wildness, like me and Adrienne were talking about this yesterday, of like, I'm like if Adrienne just like after our season would have been like, I'm opening a restaurant in Denver, I love Colorado now, I would have been like, you're fucking crazy. Like, this is an insane thing to do. But it's like, you did it like seamlessly, and everybody was like, this totally makes sense and it's brilliant. And, you know, you've obviously done extremely well there. And you seem extraordinarily happy there. But it's like, it's kind of a wild thing to do.
Yeah.
It is, but you know, I go with my gut. If something feels off, I'm not going to do it. But if something feels right, and I think I'm such a determined person that when I put my mind to something, I make it happen. And
Yeah.
I am so blessed to live in this city. And it was actually very intimidating because when we moved all our stuff and we were opening the restaurants, you know, we were just like, nobody's going to know us. We're just going to open this restaurant very quietly. Not the case, complete opposite. Apparently there was like something in the local paper saying Top Chef contestant Nina Compton moves to New Orleans to open restaurant, and people were stopping my husband and I in the grocery store saying, thank you for moving here. We're like, we haven't opened, we haven't done anything yet. And we'd go to restaurants and chefs would come out and they were just like, welcome to the city. Here's my number. If you need anything, any purveyors, here's the guy you need to call for crawfish. Here's the guy you call for produce. Here's a fisherman guy. And my husband is like, wow, this is so crazy. People here are so nice. And it's what I love about the chef community here. It's not a competition. Everybody wants to see everybody thrive. And that's what we felt when we opened the restaurant. You know, there are a lot of culinary giants here that have been around for a very long time. But everybody was so welcoming and so supportive that it just, I felt like we couldn't fail because we're going to let, you know, the whole community down. And that's just the great thing about the city, because I've seen the culinary world really explode with so many chefs that are coming here and doing different things, that it just makes the culinary landscape so much richer when you have more chefs and everybody's thriving.
Yeah, New Orleans is like a different city when it comes to the food culture. People care more about food and restaurants and people in the food world than sometimes other celebrities. So my husband and I got married in New Orleans because that's where he's from. And the day after our wedding, we went to, was it Auction House, the food hall that used to be across from Pesh?
Yes.
And we were there, we're sitting at the bar, having oysters and wine and just hanging out after all the craziness of a New Orleans wedding. And the two of us are sitting there and I'm like, oh, holy shit, that's Victor Cruz and Carucci on a date, like right over there. And no less than 5 people walked past them and were like, chef, I saw you on Top Chef, walked right past Victor Cruz. And at the time, like, he was one of the hottest athletes. And I was like, I love New Orleans. This is amazing. We've hung out in New Orleans and gotten to know each other. And one of the first things that we talked about, I don't know if you agree with my perspective, but we have something in common that I find hilarious, is that we were both robbed on our finales of Top Chef.
Listen, people still stop me. I will just be walking and people will just stop me and be like, you are robbed, and they just keep walking. People come into the restaurant and they'll get up and they're like, you are robbed, Nina. And I'm like, guys, it's okay. I'm good. I'm quite content. I have restaurants, I'm good. I'm okay. I've moved on. I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about the runner up. Like, who cares about the winners, right? It's
You guys want me to go for this part of the
Yeah.
conversation? Should I just come back
no,
when
I
this is
I like it that you're here actually.
yeah.
That show it's crazy how people are so invested, emotionally into the show, and you'll forever be a Top Chef person in their mind. And I think that's such something that's really beautiful about the show. And, as more seasons come along, I just see the Top Chef contestants family get bigger and bigger. And there's people I haven't met that once you're in that group of Top Chef family, you're in it for life. It's almost like a mob family, where
Mhm.
we're unspoken and we're all on the same page and we all know what we have to do.
I love
Well,
it, a mob family. Yeah. And I
right, because
actually I got offers. Somebody offered to kneecap Joe after our finale aired on the streets of Chicago. Somebody called me up and was like, "I think your boy is at my office. Should I take him out today?"
it's the Chicago way. I respect it. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have anybody coming for you, you're not doing enough.
And I know we've had such a good time like hanging out, joking about that. Larry joked about that when we did
Oh
I did a
yes.
cookbook dinner at one of your restaurants, and Larry in the pre-shift speech was like, "What do we do in this house? We come in second."
Yeah. I mean, it's such a unique experience to get. Like I always, I think like now, when I meet people who've gone on the show, and I'm like, man, just like enjoy the ride. Like it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
this was never where any of us were supposed to be. This isn't why we started cooking. This isn't why we began this journey. Was to like see if we could win a Bravo TV show. It's a weird fantasy land. So it's like you got to just like buckle in and be like, oh, let's see where this weirdness takes me. I mean, like, it
Right.
took you to New Orleans. Seeing a city through the lens of filming Top Chef is not like, oh, yeah, I went on this wonderful guided tour for a couple months to,
Right.
Kuala Lumpur. Like it's like a wild way to see anything. It's like, yeah, I saw this city while people were like kind of trying to like fuck with me every moment of every day. And it was like amazing and incredible and terrible.
It's a wild thing because I have so many. We had a guy that did 2 seasons ago that he lives in New Orleans, and I ran into him at the supermarket. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go do that thing," and I'm like, "What do you mean that thing?" And he's like, "I'm gonna be gone for 6 weeks," and I'm like, "Say no more." So he's like, "Can we get coffee so you can give me some tips?" I said, "Listen, man, the only tips I can tell you is memorize a couple of pastry recipes, and that's it. That's all you need to know because you're not going to have a cookbook. You're not going to have a cell phone. And it's the hardest thing. You can't train for it. You could try. I mean, because even when I found out we were doing New Orleans, my mom is sending me a list of things. She's like, maybe you're going to cook Nutria. And maybe you're going to be doing beignet challenge. And I said, Mom, it's not that pedestrian. They might have one or two of those things, but you can't train for it. No matter how hard you try and figure out what the challenge is going to be, you're in a different kitchen each time. You don't know what's in the fridge. I don't know if I could go back a second time because I don't want to be third place. Okay.
Right. That's funny. We were sitting next to each other that one time. You got a phone call to see if you would come back and do an all-star season. And within the same 5 minutes, they called me too. And I was like, would you go back? And you were like, I don't know. I don't know. I was like, man, I kind of want to go back. But you were like, ugh.
Well, I could go back, and they actually got me very close during 2020 because they're like, we're gonna be doing this All Stars in London and da da da.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, the restaurants were because it was COVID. I'm like, maybe I'll go back. And then I'm just like, nah, I just if I don't win it, then I no, let me just stop where I am. I'm just gonna stop here. I'm good. I'm gonna keep it where I am.
Yeah, and it's so cool, like, to think about you doing Top Chef and finding a home in New Orleans. Like some of the other cities, even though you spent a long time in Miami and New York, New Orleans kind of became home. And now you are such a huge part of the food scene and the culture there. Like you can't think about New Orleans without thinking about Nina Compton, part of the new wave of modern cuisine in New Orleans. And I think one of the things that also Joe and I have talked about that we find really interesting is that before Top Chef, you had cooked mostly French and Italian cuisine. And on Top Chef, you were doing this beautiful modern Caribbean cuisine. And that's the food that you do at Compère Lapin and you had at, at Babs. Everything is what we know you as didn't start until you were doing that food. And what made you lean into that in Top Chef and kind of look back more at like St. Lucian and Caribbean cuisine and have the confidence to like cook that?
That's a very thoughtful thing, when I decided to do the show. I called my mom up because Scott told me. I called Scott as soon as I got the email. I'm like, what should I do? He's like, go for it. He's like, you might win. He's like, it's going to be an experience. You should definitely do it. So I'm like, all right, good. Call my mom. I said, hey, mom, I'm going to be on this show, Top Chef. And she's like, don't do it. I'm like, what do you mean, don't do it? She's like, it's going to be too stressful for me. And I said, well, don't watch the show. And she's like, just don't do it, please. It's going to stress me out. And I'm like, let me think about it, mom. And then I called her back and I'm like, I'm going to do it because one, I could win. And two, I could put Caribbean food on the map. And when I started the first challenge, that was actually the first time in my entire career, after working for all these chefs, working under them, executing their food, their vision, their recipes, I had a blank canvas with Top Chef. I could cook any cuisine I wanted to. And that was the first time where I'm just like, wow, there's literally no boundaries here. I can cook French, Italian, Caribbean, Asian, whatever it is, and nobody would judge, right? Because it's just, you're inspired by just the moment or the challenge. And I think for me, I really found my culinary voice on that show. And I never thought that I was able to pull it out because I had been working for so many chefs. I never really thought that I was ready to open my own restaurant at that time. And I think that doing that show gave me the confidence that, hey, my food is good. People are responding to it really well. And I think that I should just go for it. So I kind of kept that going. And I didn't realize how many people watched that show until pretty much the finale. And my mom called me. Of course, it's already pre-recorded, so we already know who the winner is. And I called my mom the night of the finale and I said, hey, just so you know, I didn't win. She's like, well, everybody back home, they basically had the capital city castries basically blocked off and they had a big viewing party, TVs, couches, whole thing. People had shirts with my face on it, like our Top Chef. And people were going crazy. And she's like, showing me the video of the setup for this thing. And I'm just dying because I'm like, these people are going to be so pissed when they know that I didn't win. So the next morning I wake up to a flood of Facebook messages. You were robbed. Tom Colicchio can never come to St. Lucia. He's banned. My mom told me that they had a picture of him in the airport with a big X, that people were just like, Tom cannot come to this country. Be on the lookout if he comes here. They're like, Padma and Gail can come because they supported Chef Nina. And it was crazy. And people still, when I go home, they will stop me and they'll hug me. And they're like, thank you for representing the Caribbean. Because it wasn't just St. Lucia that was behind me. It was the entire Caribbean. So that was a huge shift for us. All these small islands coming together. It wasn't just about, oh, she's from St. Lucia. It's like, no, she's representing the Caribbean. So I think that was the most beautiful moment I could ask for was doing that on the show.
You've really kicked off a movement. I mean, you look at it now, right? Caribbean cuisine is flourishing. We talked about this in.
We've talked about this with Jamila. We've talked about Caribbean cuisine so much on the pod. We felt like you kicked this off almost quietly. Like it was this quiet spark from New Orleans that feels like it's just kicked off a powder keg of it now in the best way.
Yeah. Caribbean food is definitely having a moment. And I think the reason for that is because for the longest time, everybody has gone to the Trinidadian roti shop. They've been to the Jamaican jerk place, doubles, roti, jerk chicken, rice and peas, beef pies. So that's kind of been what people have been exposed to. And I feel like not just Caribbean food, but I think all cuisines right now, the guests are more receptive. The guests are more curious. They're more traveled. They've dined out more than, 20 years ago. So people they're hungry for this kind of food. They're curious. They want to try something. And I think Caribbean food definitely, because people have had the usual suspects, conch fritters, jerk chicken, that kind of, regular stuff. But you have all of these Caribbean chefs cooking dishes that are very uniquely Caribbean. And if you don't know, you don't know, right? So
Yeah.
you look at Cabawa in New York, where Paul Carmichael has souse. Not many people have souse on their menus, but he's doing that. So I think a lot of chefs, because the diner is curious and they're engaging this kind of cuisine, it allows the chef to become more creative and put those dishes that a lot of people are not exposed to, and people are excited about it.
Now, you said one thing that I'm curious about. Do you think Caribbean food is having a moment, or do you think that this exposure is going to make sure that it stays in the conversation going forward?
I think it's having a moment because people are paying attention to it more. You see a lot more chefs opening Caribbean restaurants, which when you think about fine dining Caribbean restaurants, that didn't really exist for a very long time. But now you're seeing more of these restaurants here, and I think they're here to stay. So I think we definitely have the staying power, and I think it's because the diner is more receptive, and also people are now, they've been exposed to Caribbean food for a very long time, but when you see it at this level, they're supporting it, they're behind it.
I think it always takes somebody to show kind of like proof of concept, because I feel like as chefs, a lot of times, there's that balance of like, well, I could do this food that I would really want to do, but will it make me accomplish the things I want to accomplish? Whether that's winning awards or, running a successful restaurant or building out, a brand or whatever. And you took it and you did literally all of those things. You know what I mean? Like, you won a James Beard Award, Best New Chef, all these things. You've had this long-standing restaurant in New Orleans, built this beautiful thing. I think that, blazed so much trail for other people to be able to look at it and be like, hey, I can do this the way I've always wanted to do it and still accomplish everything I want to do. I don't have to fit into the framework that I've always looked at as, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to be a serious, fine dining chef, whatever, like, you have to do it this way. And I think like that's the coolest thing. It's so easy to say 10 years later and be like, oh yeah, like, she did something that it appears, I feel like, very obvious now, but it's like, that was wild.
Right, right. Like, think about at the time, Nina, you opened Compère Lapin. Like, nobody else was doing that. So for you to be able to say, I'm going to do this and then let the accolades come, it's not like it was a sure thing that you're going to get attention, that, the media is going to cover it or understand the food. Like, you were the first, quote unquote, serious chef. I'm like, oh, I love curry goat, but I would have never thought I would get curry goat at like a nice restaurant. It's like my local places. And you had it with like the beautiful sweet potato gnocchi and like this gorgeous curry sauce. Like, to be able to do that and not care about, does this fit into what I know the mold of something that will win and be perceived well is. Like, Joe's right. Like, I don't think you've been given enough credit. And in the years since, we see like, Gregory Gourdet, we see, Kwame, we see Paul Carmichael, doing Kabawa and Pan Caribbean cuisine there. But you were really like the OG of doing this.
Well, you guys are making me blush. But again, I think a lot of it had to do with doing Top Chef and seeing how people, responded to the food, especially people like Padma and Tom and Gail, who are seasoned. They have great palates. So when you get that kind of affirmation at that level, it gives you a little bit of confidence, But I also think that opening a restaurant in New Orleans definitely did help, because people are so serious about food here. And seeing their response again, kind of again, just made me feel like, okay, I think I'm good here. I'm not going to close in 6 months. And I think because New Orleans is such a foodie city where people come down for eating tours or whatever it is, just for a weekend, just to eat, drink, have a good time. So when you have other people coming to the city just for a weekend and enjoying that food, again, it gives a chef confidence when you're able to put curry goat on the menu and people love it. And it was a very scary thing because I told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to put curry goat on the menu. And he laughed. He says, it's not going to sell, but if it makes you happy, put it on for a month and then we'll take it off because it's not going to sell. And we sell so much goat that it's just a thing. People come for that goat. And again, I think it's because people gave me the confidence when they try the dish. They're like, this is really good. I'm like, okay, well, let's just keep it going.
And is there any greater motivation on earth than proving your husband or wife wrong? Like, really, you know what I mean? Of like, you know what I mean? Where you're like, we are going to sell the most curry goat that's ever been sold. I'm going to make goats extinct. We're going to sell so much curry goat.
Well, we actually put a goat farmer out of business right before the pandemic because he comes to me. He was a goat farmer in Mississippi. He comes to me. Charlie was his name. And he looks so sad. And I'm like, Charlie, what's wrong? Are you okay? He's like, I only have 5 goats for this week. And then that's it. I can't keep up. And, and he looked like a broken man. Because initially it was just like, send me 1 goat for this week. And then it was like 2. And then it was just like a lot of goat. We were going through each week. Goat day is like such a lengthy process. It's a 3-day process of brining the goat overnight, braising it, taking the meat off, portioning it. So when it becomes goat day, it's an intense day. That every oven in our kitchen is full of goat, full for hours. And it's such a process that we started off with 1 goat, and then it became doing goat on a Monday, 200 pounds, and then a Thursday, 200 pounds. So it was a lot. We go through a lot of goat.
This has given me some flashbacks to stories Joe has told me about, like breaking down pigs at work and braising and like all this stuff and taking up all the ovens of the kitchen to get these done.
And
the pork shoulders.
We broke down a couple of goats at Girl the Goat in Chicago too. We had we went through a couple, 6 of those a week, and it was like, I think between you and Steph, you both have decreased the goat population of the United States by like 75% in the past decade.
One thing that I love, especially like you look at Caribbean cuisine, it is so multicultural. It reminds me, and I feel like New Orleans is such a good fit of that or a good fit for that, because you have, Creole culture is French, Spanish, African, indigenous, and then you have Caribbean culture, which is African, some parts Dutch, some parts English, Spanish, as well as, African being the through line in both of them that kind of informs that cuisine, and also Indian. In Caribbean cuisine, you have a lot of Indian influence as well. So it makes these really beautiful flavor profiles that even if you're not familiar with it overtly, some of it and you can eat a dish and you're like, oh, this reminds me of this that I had somewhere. And so it pulls up memories, I think, for so many people, even if it is something you're not familiar with.
Yeah, I think, Paul Carmichael and we had a very lengthy chat, and we were saying that we got to treat the Caribbean as its own continent, not just individual islands. And I never thought about it that way because, a lot of these islands are very, very small, right? But again, we have so many similarities and there's a lot of crossover. And so when you look at somewhere like Barbados, it is predominantly British. Then you have St. Lucia that is French, British, African, Indian, Native Indian. Every island is different, but also very similar. And a lot of the similarities, again, is Africa. So when you look at Colombian cuisine, which is like in Cartagena, it is heavily African. Somewhere like Brazil, when I went to Brazil, I was just like, oh my gosh, I know all these dishes. There's always that through line. And it's Africa, the same thing in New Orleans, that is also African influence. That's the deep connection.
Yeah, and I always tell people like, the same thing with Southern food. People know, like you said, the usual suspects. I always call it the greatest hits. Like people know collard greens, fried chicken, cornbread, shrimp and grits, but there is so much regional nuance that I think that's a really interesting perspective to say, let's look at the Caribbean like its own continent. You can take those same principles and apply that to Southern cuisine or
Yes.
like they do to Italian and French cuisine. You can look at it and say, let's bring up those like B-sides, the lesser known dishes, the regional sauces, the condiments, the things that this region is known for, but nobody knows about it outside of that. And it's really cool to see Caribbean cuisine expanding like that. And yeah, Joe and I were talking about this, and we're just like, wow, all these people we've talked about, it's like we can trace it all back to like Top Chef when you were on. And we were just like, holy shit, like, look
I,
at that.
I mean, because it's legitimately like, I think if you asked in that era, like when you opened, it's like somebody had to do that and you did that. I was like, she just went on a show, saw this place, and was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna open a restaurant that nobody's ever opened, and this shit's all gonna work out. And
In
I
a
was
city
like,
I've never lived in.
yes, that is my shit. That is like the absolute beautiful lunacy, full sendedness of our industry that I think like, you couldn't explain to someone. Like if you wrote that down on paper 10 years before it happened and you handed it to someone and you said, this is going to happen in 10
You're
years.
crazy.
And they would have been like, no.
For me, it's like when I make up my mind, it's just like I just go, and I guess for me, it's always of just always pushing, and there's failure is no option. And I think that it's also a chef thing. I think that you have to be determined to do anything. It's, you have to make it. And I think that is just the mentality of a chef is no matter how big the prep list is, no matter how many covers you have, you got to make it happen. And that's just a chef mentality.
That's it. And I had that conversation, with one of my chefs when we were doing an opening. I said the mentality is just there is no other option. You have
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
it. You have to be back against the wall. You have to
Yeah.
live in a crazy belief and faith that like the only way out is through. There's no backsliding.
Yeah.
We're just going.
Nina, what is, talking about Caribbean cuisine and how people are starting to get to know it, there still are some people who aren't as familiar with some of the nuance of it. What is a dish or an ingredient that you think more people should know about?
I wouldn't necessarily tell some people they shouldn't know about this, but I think coconut milk is the nectar of the gods. I use it in everything. And I think more people should use coconut milk in their cooking instead of maybe heavy cream. And I think that was something that for me, especially cooking with Scott, it was like heavy cream was just not really used that much. And, whenever we make a puree, we wouldn't emulsify butter or cream. It would be olive oil. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way of making it still very luscious and beautiful. So that kind of stuck with me. But when I opened the restaurant, it was just coconut milk and everything because it just is such a beautiful addition. Even things like just using coconut oil, it's super fragrant, it's super nutty. So I think that definitely more coconut everything is a must.
Now, I know you said that you can't really prepare for Top Chef in that way, but what advice do you wish you had gotten before going to do the show? And this is because we've got a new season that's coming up soon. So,
Yeah.
like, what advice do you wish you had gotten before going?
I don't think you can give anybody an advice. I think my advice to anybody going on this show is just to have fun with it. I remember the first episode, everybody now is like, just don't get voted off on the first episode. You just got to make it through Restaurant Wars, just get through that. And I just, I was in this house with 15, 16 other people, and everybody's just talking about how many, Michelin stars they have or how many restaurants they own. And I'm just sitting there as, a CDC, just quiet and overwhelmed at the same time. And, it's like everybody gets in their own head. And I just saw so many people as each episode went, they're stressed out, they're not having fun. And for me, as I was competing on the show, I was like looking around and like saying, wow, I'm cooking for David Kinch today, or I'm in Leah Chase's kitchen cooking a gumbo challenge. So for me, it was really about stepping back a little bit and enjoying the moment, you know, of that challenge and that day, because I had so much fun doing that show that if we had wrapped tomorrow and he said, let's do it again, it would not be the same. It'd be something different. But it was really about enjoying that simple moment of the challenge and looking at who I'm cooking for, which kitchen I'm in. And I think that's just the biggest thing, because a lot of people, they're so focused on the end goal of winning the money that they look up and they're like, I didn't even enjoy this, because you can't recreate that. There's no script. It's just, everything is just on the moment.
You know, I think of like our finale, and like, you know, I remember it was at one point, I don't remember if it was the day before Age, but it was like day of, and it was like you and I were like, we're literally standing on top of a mountain in Aspen. And we were just like talking about, it's like, can you believe we're fucking here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, can we believe we're doing this right now? It was like, win, lose, or draw. It's like, it's crazy that we're both standing right here.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That it's like, we grew up 10 minutes away from each other, me and Adrienne.
Really?
And never knew each other until Top Chef.
We never knew each other. And I was like, and we met in Colorado. You know what I mean? And went on this journey together. You know, and I think it's the best advice. Like, it has to be as much about the adventure as anything else. It has to be about those people next to you and the people you get to cook for. And like, you know, the access to kitchens you get to go to, places you get to cook, it's just crazy. It's so cool. And if you're only focused on like, oh, I have to win or I have not to lose, it's like you're missing so much.
Yeah, I think there's so much going on. And I think the beauty of that show is that they're so thoughtful in the way that they structure challenges, and they really pay an ode to where whichever city they're shooting in. And it's really thoughtful the way that they think about where they're cooking, who the guest judges are. It's just very well done. And if you're just focused on the finale, you're going to miss so many things.
But you don't think you would do it again?
Listen, they call me and I'm like, I will only guest judge.
That's right. Did you judge this past season? I know you judged the season that Lana was on. Did you judge the one that's airing now or about to air?
No, I didn't. But you know that when I guest judged that was Restaurant Wars, and that's a tough challenge. You know, when you think back to, you have 24 hours to create a restaurant, and somebody has to be front of the house. Think about it. You're cooking a service, not like for 25 people. You're cooking for a lot of people you've never cooked for in a restaurant setting. You're running a service. Like, I don't know if you're the best saute cook, but hey, you're working saute today, and this is my nuts on the line. It's pretty incredible. And you know, when I judged it, it was, the two restaurants were like night and day, but that's a hard challenge. 3 or 4 courses, plus run front of the house, have wine pairings, train your bussers and your servers and everybody. It's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
That's such a hard challenge, but I will say that was like the one, you know, when I got on, I was like, I got to make it to Restaurant Wars. That was the one I wanted to do. Like, that was my goal. I was like, I have to make the Restaurant Wars. And I would tell you, Age, I still have our guest book from Conifer.
No.
Yeah, it's sitting on my bookshelf behind me. I still have it. Somebody from the production team snuck it out to me because I had, you know, when I got kicked off the next day. but I still have it, and it was like one of those, like, I mean, it's so special, but it is hard.
I wish.
Luckily, I had the best fish cook in Colorado on my. I'm working on my line. So I wasn't sweating it. It's cool as a cucumber, baby.
Not at all. The best cooked fish with the worst overall dish, though. It was funny because
we still got that dub.
We did. We got the W on that. It was so funny because going in, I had never seen Top Chef, so people were like, "Oh my God, it's Restaurant Wars," and I was like, "What's that?"
Oh my God.
Oh, we're 2 teams against each other? Okay, cool. Like, I can cook. I was like, I know nothing about front of house. Like, I can manage, but like, if somebody's better suited to this, Joe was like, oh, I got this. I'm like, cool, you do it. I'm like, I will hold down a line. That
Suited
I can
and booted,
do.
baby.
I will go to war. I will run through whatever wall needs to get run through. Dishes will come out fast and accurate. But front of house, that is a skill set I do not possess. Luckily, we had a charming guy on our team to handle that.
Yeah, that's always the best to have is somebody that can smooth over front of the house because it's an important part of the restaurant.
I think the advantage I had is that I've gotten in a lot of trouble in my life and had to talk my way out of it. So it really helps for building a strong front of the house presence of like, well, I've been in situations way worse than this. I got this, guys. Don't worry.
Nina, I want to get into a little bit of Mardi Gras turn and burn.
Oh boy.
Kind of Mardi Gras, kind of New Orleans, but I'm going to throw some questions at you. Some are going to be this or that. Some will be kind of quick top of head answers. So are you ready?
Okay. Yes, go.
Okay. So it's Mardi Gras. King cake. What is your favorite king cake in New Orleans?
Okay, this is going to cause a huge debate because people are like, is it Haydel's? Is it Randazzo's? Is it this person? I actually really enjoy a galette de roi.
Oh, you're going way to French it up.
I'm going classique. The galette from either Lagniappe Bakery or Levy Bakery.
For me, both it's just great.
Yeah, I think having a beautiful galette, that's
okay. That's controversial. That is going to be very controversial.
People are going to be judging me really hard. They're like, you didn't say Haydel's, or you didn't say Dongfang. Guys, sugary confections are not my thing, but a galette is the way I go.
Okay, all right. No judgment. You're in a safe space. Jambalaya or gumbo?
Gumbo.
Yep. Now, I know I've heard some people put potato salad in their gumbo in New Orleans. Have you tried that?
That is the move.
I've never heard of that, but it sounds awesome.
I've heard of it. I've seen it, but I've never tried it.
I've never seen it. I want to try that.
You guys got to try it. It's a little amount of potato salad, and it's the one.
I trust you. So if anybody could convince me, it's going to be Nina Compton. All right. Now, another controversial one. Red beans and rice or rice and peas?
Oof, I can't answer that.
Oh.
I can't. Either way, can I say both?
You can say both.
You say whatever you want. Adrienne's not actually in charge. You don't got to let her bully you.
I just like to start some shit sometimes. Okay,
what my mother would call a shit stir.
She's definitely one of those.
Have you met me? Okay, so Mardi Gras, do you actually go to the parades or do you wait for the after parties?
So I go to the parades. We actually have quite a few that go past the restaurant. So we have muses that, it happens during service. So the dining room pretty much empties out and everybody's trying to catch a shoe. So that's one of my favorite parades because it goes right by the restaurant. So I don't have to worry about parking or, being out in the cold. I can just pop out when the floats start to come by.
Nice. And now with Mardi Gras beads, do you collect them forever or do you throw them away?
So when we first moved here, we had bags. I mean, huge bags of beads. And when we bought our house, told my husband, I said, we just gotta stop collecting these beads. Some of those floats have their custom beads, so that's the ones we save. The other ones we give away because some people recycle them, so we just donate them at the end of the season.
Nice. Okay, and last one. This one might be controversial too.
Uh-huh.
New Orleans Mardi Gras or Caribbean Carnival?
Caribbean Carnival for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, people gonna they're gonna get me on that, but it's just different. It's just very, very different. And I think because I don't know, it's just something I grew up with. They're both really good, but Carnival for me is just I don't know, it's just something that sings to me.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. That's your home.
Like me and Adrienne are in. We'll come, and you can make the case. You can make the case. I'm there for it. And then to reciprocate, I can bring you to the Southside Irish Parade, which is like our carnival, but not good.
Okay.
But very fun, very fun, very very fun. If you've never had, you know, a Guinness and a Jameson at 6:30 in the morning with a bagel. It's pretty special.
And now, Nina, there is a very special part of the show that, you know, we get real with one another about a funny time, a funny story in our career, and we call it walk-in confessions. And I know you've got some good stories. So why don't you give us a walk-in confession?
So the first year we opened Compare, we're in a hotel, so we're open 7 days a week. And it was our first Mardi Gras. Of course, everybody thinks that the parades on that Tuesday are like in the evening. Dead wrong. They start at like 6 a.m. and they roll until like 2, 3 o'clock. So it's a full morning, half afternoon of just craziness in the city. And I'm like, there's no way we're going to be busy at the restaurant Fat Tuesday. Everybody's going to be out. Everybody's going to be drunk. Everybody's going to just be at home after, right? So my husband and I, we got dressed up in our costumes, went to the parades, and we had an early lunch, and then we went to the restaurant. And I'm hanging out. I'm like, oh, it's not going to be busy. We got so busy that I'm in these like purple tights with a gold tutu and, you know, my gold sneakers and all these beads and a big wig. And I jump on the line and I'm cooking food. And then the oyster shuck is like, yes, we don't have any more lemon, the oysters. And I'm like, shit. So I tell my sous chef, hey, jump in the middle, dig these guys out. My husband learns how to expedite. I'm like, hey, run the pass. Of course, I can't get an Uber. I don't have my car because traffic and parking is a nightmare. I asked one of my cooks, I'm like, hey, borrow your bike. I need to go to the grocery store 2 blocks away. Jump on there, and I'm riding, going to the store to get like 5 lemons, come back, continue cooking. And I was just like, this is absolute madness. But now I know every Fat Tuesday when I work, don't wear tights. It was just the most uncomfortable service, like wearing this big wig, sweating my nuts off, trying to cook this food.
Just imagining you like trying to like really dig somebody out of the weeds too, like super serious, like in a wig, in a tutu and tights, being like, we gotta go, like blah blah blah. They're like, I don't know, like I can't take you seriously. Like you're yelling at me in a wig and a tutu, like you know what I mean? Like
it was one for the books, I will say that. So now I told everybody, hey guys, Fat Tuesday, we're gonna be busy. Like don't be fooled. But it's a fun time, you know. The city they're in a good mood, you know, and people come to the restaurant all dressed up and you see all the characters. So it's a fun time to be in New Orleans because nobody's in a bad mood. Everybody's having a good time. They're sugared up from all the cakes, and it's a good time to be there alive.
I like the idea too of people like walking in, seeing you like rocking service like that. They're like, oh, how fun. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's so festive. Like, you know, it's fun that she like dressed up for the night. And you were like, I am fighting for my life back here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm about to ride somebody else's bike to get lemons 2 blocks away in a tutu. It's like where my day is at. You know what I mean? Like, this was not, you know, good time Chef Nina right now. This is, you know.
No, this was, I was a broken woman. I was not in a good place.
It's just like the after service of like you just got like wrecked on the line and you're like still in a tutu and tights and like a wig. You're like great, now I gotta walk home in this shit.
Well, here's the best part. The wig was like sideways by the end of
Oh God,
not cute. It was not cute.
Only you could pull that off. Seriously.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, that is epic. Oh my God. I love Mardi Gras, but God, I'm glad I don't work in a restaurant in New Orleans when Mardi Gras comes around.
I don't got the legs for those tights.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't have a side towel to fit in the tutu, so I'm just like, yeah, it was not fun.
Yeah, where do you put a side towel in a tutu?
You can't even get an apron around it either. You know, it's all like puffed out. Like you just. That you didn't light on fire is incredible.
And I hope those gold sneakers were non-slip too.
There's a lot of things with that wardrobe that went wrong, but hey, we survived.
You made it.
Yeah,
Hey,
we made.
you live to fight another Mardi Gras, chef. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, your stories, everything.
Yes.
It was amazing.
Guys, it's been my cheekbones. Like I've been laughing the whole time. It's like my face hurts.
You are a blast, chef. Thank you so much for joining us. That is it for this week's episode of The Chef's Cut. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening and leave a review, especially if you're watching us on YouTube, where you can find full-length videos of every episode. And be sure to follow us at The Chef's Cut on IG. And for Joe Flam, I'm Adrienne Cheatham, and this has been The Chef's Cut, Life Beyond the Pass.